Like, you don't have people backing this, right? Like, this is you.
No, this is just me.
Many summers ago, while helping my family clean out my grandmother's basement in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, we came across a large wooden tool chest. I can still smell the old paints and musty papers in what had been my grandfather's workshop. Inside that old dusty chest, bundled yellow envelopes to and from Cuba. I discovered a lost part of my own family history. My great-grandparents owned property in Cuba.
So when you have people that you trust and you're willing to live through life together, you end up doing these things that you always wanted to do, but you're too afraid to do because the focus is not on the possible failure or the fear, but it's on each other. And I kind of believe that there's kind of two kinds of people. There's people who are crazy enough to do the things that no one else will do, and then there's people who are crazy enough to believe in those people. And I think that you need both. And so in that case, you need people in your life who are crazy enough to believe in whatever it is you're trying to do. You don't need them believing in your project. Your project is great, but you're better than your project. You as a human being, what you feel, what you're desiring, what you're longing for, you need someone to believe in you so that you can actually have the courage to take the steps for what you're going to do next. And so that's something that I've learned through this process, is that every time I do something, and just because we've done a big project, I still wake up and I'm still terrified. It's never that you conquer fear, but you become more and more bold when you realize that you're backed by people. You're backed by people who care about you, who love you, and that you trust, and who also are talented and can support you and propel you to where you need to be. So I encourage you, find somebody who believes in you, not just your project, not just to bring on board, but someone who believes in you, that you can be sort of your foundation for what you jump off of and do, because you go a lot farther than if you try to do it on your own. When you're creating, not only do you want to create something meaningful, but you want to do it well. We all want to be excellent at what we do, and we want to offer something that is of value, not just that we've done it, but that we can step back and say, I'm proud of this. And for me, I've learned that when I grew up, before I got into filmmaking, I was an artist, so I just paint and draw, and so it's great, but it relies solely on me. Like, no one else comes in and tells me what they think, what they should do. It's up to my determination to get this drawing or this painting done. So when I started going to Full Sail and going to school and class projects, I was terrible at working on crews because I wanted to hold on to everything, and I didn't know how to let go and how to invite people into projects. But once I started doing that, I felt so free because I realized, why am I trying to do something I'm terrible at that somebody else absolutely loves? And that's what I've loved about filmmaking, I get to invite people into every area of my life where I'm like, I'm terrible at this, but you are as passionate about this as I am about whatever I'm doing. And so you actually get to empower people to enter in with you and to actually do what they're good at. And in the process, that energy creates excellence. And one of the things we're so passionate about is not just making films, but what is the kind of environment that we're creating out of? And a lot of projects we worked on individually when we would work for other companies, some of the atmospheres were terrible. They would treat you horribly, and even the mindset behind it, and the whole time you're thinking, why are we trying to create something out of this atmosphere? Like, this is not the way things should be made. So even for us, so much of wanting to create our own work was like, we value the people we work with, and we also want to create out an experience that we are passionate about, and that's actually enjoyable.
Passion drives a project forward, and in our case, it was over 2.5 years to get everything done. So the staying power, the commitment to seeing something through really comes from that commitment to the 100%. Part of my reason in asking and making sure that people were into what we were saying or following it is the importance of feedback. And our point there on it takes a village. As we developed the film, we showed it to friends, family, etc., kind of building some bigger circles. And I think that's really important for you to take into account, in that the blind spots that we carry, or the the sycophantic nature of some of our family relationships. My mother, of course, said, "Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Oh, it's wonderful." Well, would you pay to actually see it? Well, when he asked her, well, no, you need to do this and this and this. And finally, she spoke up the truth. So in your involvement on a project, I think it's very important to have periodic feedback and to get the village together to look at how people see things. When we showed the like 2 or 3 minute trailer, it was longer than that. At that point, it was like a 12-minute intro to the film. I had people come over to my house, sit around the living room, to include two neighbors that are just kind of just interesting people. One of them spoke up very, very like, I don't get it. There's too much going on too early. And we who had been working with the film every day didn't notice that. And in fact, 2 or 3 people said, yeah, you're loading too much information. Well, the excitement that we carry, the passion for that project didn't necessarily translate visually for the visual medium, that we had put in too much too soon. So that was a really important lesson for us, and I think it's an important one, is to always have feedback in a process where you share your ideas, and not just with your trusted team, and that you can get to feeding on each other and going, this is so good, that was great. And then you show it to people who are not as familiar with the subject or even disinterested, and they have a very, very different reaction to it.
First of all, we had never done a feature-length anything. We had done a lot of, we've done some episodical types things, but they're all kind of broken down. So this is the first time we did a feature-length, and going into it, actually not knowing how long it was going to be, because to us, we just wanted to capture the most compelling content, and half the time we didn't know if we'd be able to finish it. So we're just going along the way, constantly going back to like creating themes, like what do we want out of this documentary? What is the focus, so that we can have a tangible, something to stay tuned to. And a lot of it was Greg, like who is Greg? What is he pursuing? So as we filmed sometimes over spans of months, like 8 months before we'd film again, when we jumped back into it, we remembered like what was the driving force in touching, kind of getting back in tune with that river of inspiration. But it takes time, and it's very difficult to, over a long period of time, to keep the level of excellence, keep the level of determination, of passion going, especially when at the end of the day, no one really cares and no one else really knows about it. Because when you're creating something, you are so invested in it and you see the potential, but at that stage, when it's behind closed doors, no one could care less because they don't see it, they can't feel it, they don't know it, which is why you need people around you who are part of it who can help you keep your commitment up. And I think for me, the biggest thing I've learned is that when I have people that I'm working with, it creates a level of expectation that I don't want to let them down. And getting to work with, and especially in this case with Greg, first as our client, with any client we work with, the last thing you want to do is disappoint them. The last thing you want to do is create a terrible product, or you want to, you want to give them something way later than it was supposed to be. And so there were many times that just having the simple pressure of creating something for Greg allowed us to do this massive thing that we had never done before, but to keep going at it. And even after time was going on, like to not give up on it, because it was important to him. And so we wanted to deliver something that would be equal to the value that he had in it. And you have to give yourself grace that there are so many times that we were like, okay, Greg, this is what we can do. And we made a decision based off the knowledge we had of all our filmmaking experience. But sometimes that experience is not enough for what you're about to do. So there are many times we were like, we can do this, Greg, and then it would take 3 times longer than we thought it would. But thankfully, because of the patience and and just the character and who Greg is, he worked with us, and that is amazing. And you need people like that because they're the reason you get up every morning, especially those times you get up and you're like, I do not feel this. There's so many times we were editing this documentary where it was not inspiring, and you're looking at this footage and there's hours of it, and you're thinking, I don't see a thing in this today. But then you remember who you're doing it for and why you're doing it, and then you start doing it, and you just go at it, and then soon there's a spark, there's something. And so much of that I've learned in that, and when it comes to commitment, is discipline. You have to be disciplined as a creative person every day to choose into it and to choose in it together. And we're really committed to. I think something that Sean says so well, and if you say it, I'm going to steal it. Is that we're 50-50, that there's no I in our company. It's we. And so when we do something, we do it. together. And that isn't something that's so important to us, is that when we create something, we can feel like it doesn't matter how much the percentage-wise, if you did this, if you did that. At the end of the day, we're a part of it, and the more that you're a part of something, the more you're willing to give to it. You know, I think that's what makes projects so powerful, is that you create an environment where it's us.
So what I'm going to talk about is all muscle, no hustle. That means a lot for us because, you know, we kind of grew up together. He's a little younger than me, but we kind of grew up together, and we always had a lot of friends that had the equipment, they had the cool fancy stuff, but they didn't have the hustle. You know, it was all muscle, no hustle. So that's something that we kind of resonate, is that no matter what you have on the table, it's how you hustle. Normally in movies, it's about a 3 to 4 minutes worth of credits for a feature movie. It just goes on and on and on. With our documentary, it's like 30 seconds, and it's still a feature film type style. So that shows the hustle that we took on as a company and as partners to do everything. We're not a big company. We don't have editors. We don't have colorists. We don't have sound design. We don't have the luxury of that right now. But what we did was we hustled, spent many hours YouTubing things and tutorials, because it wasn't my strength. So I had to YouTube stuff. I had to get better, and that's what we did. At the beginning of the stage, when we decided to do the documentary, I think we didn't realize how big of a project it was going to be. There was even a moment where Gregory emailed us saying breach of contract. You know, he was talking to us about, like, we breached our contract for not getting it done. And these were real scenarios that embraced us, and we had to step up to the challenge. So we put our best foot forward, we hustled, we figured it out, and we got it done. And it goes back to the team, the we, the 50-50, and that we does include Greg.
In the creative process for this film, we got to know each other really well and to build up the trust necessary. The breach of contract point came when I was sitting after 6 months and was in a different country in a different time zone. I'm like, hey guys, haven't heard anything from you. But they delivered, and what they delivered I was so happy with and am so happy with, and hopefully others will share that passion with the final product that came out. The individual commitments, the point of every day when you tell somebody you're going to do something, then you need to. And part of, I think, these human relationships that we've talked about as the core to a creative process are you do commit. If you want to be called back, you've got to deliver, because otherwise business isn't going to come. If you acquire a reputation of being somebody who doesn't deliver, you're done. May not be the first day, but eventually you're done. You'll be tending bar, and that's it for the rest of your life. So that importance of delivery, of having an agreed set of terms and delivering on it. In my position of being the producer, then I had to deliver on certain things, of commitments for funding, for tickets, for making sure people got home. So it's a real two-way street, and that develops in the course of a project to have that commitment, that honesty, that knowledge. Because if you don't, you read about all the stories of divorces, of films that don't get made or take multiple years, directors having to be brought in at great cost. Try to avoid that. Just put out what you're going to do and then deliver on it.
You need the companionship to be able to go through life. And there's that saying that, like, you're living your dream when you're getting paid to do what you love. And that's great. I think that's true. That is true. But for me, I've actually adapted to be, you're living your dream when you get paid to work with people you love. Because for me, these projects, these things end, but the people that I work with, those don't end. Those relationships keep going, and they're the ones that keep leading me to create better work, better stories. And they're also, in the case of Greg, he was the story. He was not only the producer, but he was the story. And we played throughout this entire film, and a lot of it because we need to try things. We had never done this before, so we needed the freedom to be able to try things and know that as we try it may lead somewhere that we didn't expect. Because I think like creativity on a basic scientific level is the ability to problem solve, to connect one idea with another idea. And so, you know, when you're a kid, you're just like, oh, I'll build a tower, falls over, I'll try this. And you keep doing it until all of a sudden you connect ideas like, oh, this is how I build it and it works. So you need opportunities to be able to express yourself where there's not so much pressure, where you can try new things. You can be, it's okay to fail and have a different outcome. And oftentimes that outcome is actually what you need to solve the problem. And you have fun, you know? I think we all, at the end of the day, we want to have fun doing what we love doing.
I always thought those papers were thrown away in the cleanup, or perhaps auctioned off. But the images of the letters and the mysterious land remained. 40 years later, I received a call that papers had been found. I had to go. I had to find out the truth.